What if I told you that a plane declared dead by its own manufacturer might soon fly again? Not just any plane, but the biggest passenger jet humanity has ever built. A flying colossus so massive it once symbolized the future of aviation, until that future collapsed. Yet now, one airline is betting an eye-watering $20 billion that this so-called failure still has unfinished business in the skies. Meet Emirates, the Middle Eastern giant refusing to let the legendary Airbus A380 fade into history. While every other carrier quietly retired their super jumbos, Emirates doubled down, pouring money, manpower, and belief into a machine everyone else had written off. And at the center of it all is one man, Sir Tim Clark, with a vision so bold it's forcing the aviation world to look twice. Because Clark doesn't just want to keep the A380 alive, he wants to reinvent it. A completely new generation of the world's largest aircraft, faster, lighter, greener, and ready to defy every reason it failed the first time. It sounds insane. A $20 billion gamble on a dream everyone else abandoned. But to understand why Emirates still believes this dead plane could define the next era of air travel, we first need to look back to when the story of the Super Jumbo came crashing down. When the Airbus A380 first touched the skies in the early 2000s, it wasn't just an aircraft, it was a statement. The Super Jumbo was supposed to redefine long-haul travel. Double decks, private suites, onboard lounges. It was luxury at 40,000 feet. But behind the spectacle was a brutal reality Airbus didn't want to admit. The A380 was too big, too heavy, and too expensive for its own good. At full capacity, this monster weighed over 1.2 million pounds, roughly the same as 15 fully loaded semi-trucks. It needed 4 massive engines that guzzled fuel at a staggering rate, making every flight a costly burn. And that wasn't all. Its 80-meter wingspan meant only a handful of airports could even handle it. Entire taxiways had to be redesigned just to accommodate its size. But the biggest problem wasn't the engineering, it was timing. Just as the A380 entered service, the entire airline industry started moving in the opposite direction. New twin-engine jets like the Boeing 787 and Airbus A350 were smaller, cheaper, and capable of flying just as far with half the fuel. Airlines no longer needed to pack 800 passengers into one giant plane. They could run more flexible, efficient routes instead. It wasn't long before the numbers stopped adding up. One by one, airlines backed out. Cancellations piled up. And in 2021, Airbus officially called it, production of the A380 would end forever. For most, that was the end of an era. A spectacular but failed experiment in scale. But not for Emirates. While others were scrapping their fleets, Emirates was quietly preparing for something very different. Because one man at the top refused to accept that the A380 story was over, and he believed he had the blueprint to bring it back stronger than ever. At the center of this story stands Sir Tim Clark, the president of Emirates, a man often described as the architect of modern long-haul travel. When Airbus shut down the A380 program, most airline executives simply moved on. But not Clark. To him, the A380 wasn't a failure. It was an unfinished masterpiece. He had spent decades building Emirates around the Super Jumbo's strengths. Massive capacity, unmatched comfort, and prestige that no other aircraft could match. And he wasn't ready to let all that die. So Clark made a bold move that stunned the industry. He went straight to Airbus with a radical proposal. A completely reimagined A380. One that would fix every flaw of the original. He called it the A380 Neo. Not just a facelift, not just a minor update, but a total reinvention. Lighter, quieter, more efficient, and capable of rewriting the economics that once doomed it. When Airbus executives told him such a project would cost $20 billion to develop, Clark didn't flinch. He looked them in the eye and said, "If you build them, we'll buy them." That single sentence sent shockwaves through the aviation world. Because in an industry driven by caution and data, Clark was speaking pure conviction. He wasn't asking for a miracle. He was betting on progress. Aviation technology had advanced dramatically since the early 2000s, and Clark knew it. Lighter materials, smarter aerodynamics, revolutionary new engines, the same innovations that made smaller jets efficient could now breathe new life into the world's largest one. It wasn't just nostalgia, it was strategy. And if his vision worked, the A380 Neo could do what the original never could: make size an advantage again. But to understand how this dream might actually take flight, we have to look at what's changed since the first A380 rolled out of its hangar, and how those new technologies could turn a failed giant into a modern marvel. When engineers first designed the Airbus A380 more than 2 decades ago, they were working at the edge of what was possible. Composite materials, the lightweight carbon fiber structures that define modern aviation, were still experimental. The A380 used some, but the bulk of its body was old-school metal. Strong, yes, but heavy, inflexible, and maintenance-hungry. Fast forward 20 years, and the world of aircraft design has changed beyond recognition. Planes like the Airbus A380 and Boeing 787 Dreamliner now use carbon fiber reinforced polymers for up to half of their entire structure. They're lighter, stronger, and far more resistant to fatigue and corrosion. This is exactly what Sir Tim Clark wants to bring to the A380 Neo. Imagine a super jumbo built not from aluminum sheets, but from advanced composite layers, reducing its weight by tens of thousands of pounds while boosting fuel efficiency. Clark believes this alone could transform the aircraft's performance, but his redesign goes even deeper. He's proposed a smaller vertical stabilizer, that's the tall fin on the tail, to reduce drag and improve balance. The wings? They'd be completely re-engineered with next-generation aerodynamics, smoother airflow, and possibly even folding wingtips like Boeing's 777X, allowing the aircraft to fit at more airports worldwide. Each of these changes might sound small, but together they could rewrite the A380's physics. Lighter structure, lower fuel burn. Smaller tail, less drag. Smarter wings, higher efficiency and flexibility. Clark summed it up simply: we now know a lot more about the A380 than we did when it was built. The fin is too large. The wings need to be changed. All of this is in the later generation of aircraft. In other words, the A380 Neo wouldn't just be an upgrade, it would be a rebirth. But all these improvements to the airframe would mean nothing without one crucial breakthrough: the kind of power plant capable of turning a massive 4-engine jet into a modern, fuel-efficient machine. And that's where the most revolutionary piece of the puzzle comes in. If there's one thing that could make or break the A380 Neo dream, it's this: the engines. The original A380 was powered by 4 enormous engines, either Rolls-Royce's Trent 900 or the Engine Alliance GP7000. They were mechanical marvels for their time, but that time was the 1990s. Powerful, yes. Efficient, not even close by today's standards. Enter the Rolls-Royce UltraFan, a project many believe could redefine how large jets fly for the next generation. When Rolls-Royce ran its first full-scale UltraFan test in 2023, engineers witnessed something extraordinary. The prototype didn't just meet expectations, it exceeded them. It produced more than 87,000 pounds of thrust while promising a staggering 25% improvement in fuel efficiency compared to older engines. That's not just a step forward, it's a leap. At the heart of this breakthrough is a geared turbofan architecture, which allows each section of the engine to spin at its optimal speed. This means smoother airflow, less energy wasted, and more power for every drop of fuel burned. The UltraFan's design also pushes materials science to its limits. Its fan blades are made of carbon composites, cutting weight dramatically. Its core uses ceramic matrix composites, which can withstand far higher temperatures, making the engine more durable and efficient. And perhaps most importantly, it's built to run on 100% sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, a major step toward greener flight. As Clark put it, if it's ever allowed to get its head above the water level, this is a revolution in power. And he's right. The UltraFan could finally solve the problem that doomed the original A380, its appetite for fuel. With new generation engines like these, a reimagined A380 Neo might actually match or even beat twin-engine aircraft in fuel efficiency, all while carrying twice as many passengers. Think about that. A four-engine jet that flies cleaner, cheaper, and farther than ever before. But while technology can make the numbers work, there's another side to the A380's legacy that can't be measured in fuel burn or thrust. Because no matter how efficient a plane is, passengers don't fall in love with numbers. They fall in love with the experience. Ask any frequent flyer which aircraft they'd rather be on, and you'll hear the same answer again and again. The A380. It's not just a plane, it's an experience. Step inside, and the first thing that hits you is the space. Over 550 cubic meters of cabin volume. No other commercial aircraft even comes close. It's wide, tall, and eerily quiet, like a flying hotel gliding above the clouds. Emirates knew exactly how to turn that space into a selling point. Their A380s became floating symbols of luxury and comfort. Private first-class suites with sliding doors and full beds. A sleek onboard lounge where premium passengers sip champagne mid-flight. Actual showers at 40,000 feet. Something no other airline dares to offer. Wider seats and aisles in every class. And a calm, whisper-quiet cabin that makes even long-haul flights feel peaceful. But beyond the luxury, it's the feeling that matters. When you step onto an A380, you instantly know you're on something special. It's not cramped, it's not loud, it's not just transportation, it's an experience you actually look forward to. And after the pandemic, that emotional connection has only grown stronger. Passengers now value personal space more than ever. They're willing to pay for privacy, comfort, and premium experiences. All things the A380 delivers effortlessly. That's why Emirates has turned its A380 into a marketing weapon. The aircraft itself sells tickets. It's a flying billboard for the airline's brand, one that screams exclusivity and prestige. As one aviation analyst put it, the A380 isn't just a plane, it's Emirates' identity. And Clark knows it. He understands that technology might make planes efficient, but emotion makes people loyal. Still, even the most beloved aircraft can't survive on nostalgia alone. If the A380 Neo is ever going to fly again, it needs to make financial sense. Not just for Emirates, but for the industry. And perhaps the most telling detail of all, when Airbus joked about the €20 billion cost to restart production, Clark didn't negotiate. He didn't hesitate. He said simply, "If you build them, we'll buy them." In the high-stakes world of commercial aviation, conviction like that can move mountains, or maybe resurrect giants. So what do you think? Should Airbus bring back the A380 Neo for a new era, or let this legend drift into the clouds of history? If you enjoyed this deep dive into aviation's most ambitious comeback, hit subscribe and the notification bell to stay updated on all things flight, and leave a comment below. Would you fly the A380 Neo if it actually returned to the skies?